Great job. Okay, so we're at our final business for the evening. So we talked about the top earning business from Shark Tank, but if you think about top 10, top 20 most profitable companies, which shark do you think has invested in the biggest amount, largest number of those companies? Which shark do you think has the greatest number of those in their portfolio? What do you think?
Cuban.
Who?
Cuban.
Mark Cuban. So Mark Cuban definitely has more money than everybody else. And so if you look at the total volume of deals, he's actually done over half of the deals through all 11 seasons of Shark Tank. But no, he does not have the most.
Damon Wilson.
Damon John?
Yeah, Damon.
Nope, he has the number one, but he doesn't have the most.
Lori.
So yeah, Lori Greer. So if you look at the top 20 list, Lori actually has 13 of the top 20 most profitable businesses from Shark Tank. That includes businesses like Scrub Daddy, which was mentioned earlier. It includes businesses like Squatty Potty. But Lori has just done an incredible job of not only fully using that QVC connection, but also building out some distribution. So if you go to Home Depot, if you go to Office Max, there's a Lori Greer end cap that has 10 or 12 Shark Tank businesses from Lori Greer. And those are things that she's negotiated on her own outside of the connection that she already had. So as an entrepreneur, it's not only important to, it's not always best to go with somebody like Mark who has the most money. Look at who has the best distribution and who can actually help out your business. All right, our last business. Hello, Woofy.
Hi everyone, my name is Arjun, like Argentina without the Tina. I'm the founder and CEO, a little laugh helps. I'm the founder and CEO of HelloWoofy.com, which is a data science-driven marketing platform designed for small businesses and medium-sized agencies. For the longest time, if you're a small business owner or a medium-sized agency, you've had to use tools that look, well, like this. Old, clunky, outdated, and that's because this is what you can afford. Why did a marketing post do really well? Was it the text? Was it the emoji? Was it the hashtag? Was it the wording, the spacing, the image, the size of the image, the resolution of the image? Those are data points that don't get answered when it comes to trying to figure out why you did really well versus not so well. So when it comes to doing the marketing campaign again, it's upon you to figure out and basically wing it. Now when it comes to tools that have a semblance of intelligence, you're taking a look at tools like Radiant6, Sprinkler, Social Flow, but the fact of the matter is if you and I start a business tomorrow, we wouldn't be paying $30,000 to $100,000 for a tool like this just to understand which words are doing well, which time zones are doing really well for us, and things of that nature. These tools still only give you feedback, they don't actually do the execution for you. So if you have the luxury of a large team, that's great, but if you don't, you're still winging it. So we've been there, running an agency, running other startups. We felt the pain. The industry itself is $19 billion and growing. Social media management is still something only for the people who can afford high-end tools like Radiant6 and Sprinkler. But what happens to small businesses and startups? They need data-driven solutions, and that's what we are. And so we decided to build a solution that is so simple that we like to say even a 10-year-old influencer can use by visualizing the data science, making it super easy to curate, optimize, and then execute on the content itself, and then understand how to do it better the next time. The solution is entrenched in three main engines, two of which are patent pending. The first is the artificial intelligence. As you input content, the system becomes more intelligent, starts giving you more recommendations for trending content, figures out what hashtags will do really well, what emojis, what quotes will do really well based on the articles you're sharing, and so on and so forth. Grunt work that would have taken you hours on end, with a dozen clients would have taken you weeks on end. We do it in under 5 minutes. Oops. The second engine is the compliance engine. As you know, Twitter came out last year and said if they detect anything coming from your Twitter account that is duplicated or too similar, they won't hesitate to warn you and then delete your account. What we do, unlike any of our competitors, is give you a similarity score, constantly making sure that your content is not too similar. And as it becomes too similar, we help you automatically regenerate a new piece of content with the best optimization you can possibly have. And the last but not least is the predictive linguistics engine. What that means is, much like Gmail Smart Compose, as you know, when you're typing an email, it automatically completes the sentence. We do something similar in that we're basically that for marketing. But the best hashtags, the best words, the best emojis, it'll take you milliseconds to come up with the most optimized post. And we can talk about the engines in more detail later on. But we took this information and we said, how do we visualize the back end, the power of data science on the front end? And so what we did was build a search engine, Woofy.ai, which you can use for yourself, to show you, using complex network theory, which words, which emojis, which hashtags and images tend to do really well based on 35 million data points that no small business owner or small medium-sized agency could afford to have on their own. This engine powers the back end of our platform. And we then took that information and we said, how could we actually allow other companies to use that API that we built for finding the best words, finding the best emojis, and we spun out another part of the company that's called emojidata.ai. For email providers, for newsletter creation platforms, essentially you have the ability, much like on the screenshot on the right, to find the best emojis, find the best hashtags and words in real time as your users are typing them, giving you the most optimized, best chance to compete on the grand scheme of things. Now, we can talk about the business development side of things as well, and some of the strategies that we have in terms of partnerships during the Q&A. We have about 65 customers. We launched about 8 weeks ago. We've generated a few $1,000s in revenue. And our go-to-market strategy is focused on tier 1 countries, but more specifically on tier 2. Because we're able to give you the recommendations in terms of linguistics, companies that are based outside the US in countries where English is not the predominant language, yet they're working with clients in tier 1 countries, we're the only ones amongst our competitors to give them that advantage. Unlike any of the likes of Hootsuite or Buffer, we can do the marketing copy, much like Grammarly for marketing. And this is the competition slide, and the experts are entrenched in data science, serial entrepreneurs, and we have some leading investors already on board. Thank you.
All right, questions from our judges?
Brian? It is cold up here.
I've been impressed with you for many years, all of your startups. This sounds more sophisticated than you've worked on in the past.
Yep.
And the customers in the agency side, how are they feeling about it?
They're loving it. Of the 65, half of them are paying, and we are having a very low attrition of about 6%. We want to bring that down as well. And we have another 6,000 in the pipeline.
You didn't discuss your revenue model.
Yeah, it's $49 a month. It basically gives you access to the platform at the moment. We are looking to offer a more robust enterprise edition coming soon in the early part of next year. And in addition to that, we're also launching a partnership within a week or so that will get us in front of over 850,000 agencies, medium and small. And that we can talk more about that later offline.
I love the fact you're going international first.
So we have the founding engineer of Hootsuite, and he's on record saying that Hootsuite is pulling out of specific countries because they can't offer enterprise-level software or the market isn't big enough for them. For us, that's great. We're catering to small to medium-sized agencies, but on top of that, if you're in Serbia, like Maya, one of our clients, she doesn't speak English as a first or second language. But we can give her a competitive advantage to work with companies out of Ohio or California and be the same at a price point that's more affordable.
When do you expect to offer a freemium version with the gate that has more added features for?
That's a great question. We actually just added a free tier about a week ago, but we're actually seeing more people opt in for the paid version than the free. The free one is very much getting a taste of it, but more people at $49 a month, it's more competitive than any of our competitors out there.
Where did the name come from?
So much like your best friend, your little dog, he teaches you when and how and what to post. And so
You might have been another dog walking app.
we get that a lot. But, one of the things I do want to highlight is actually on the emoji side of things. Adobe came out with research a couple of months ago in July, and they said you can get anywhere from 24 to 64% uplift in engagement. In our internal tests, as you can see here, we're getting 180% between emails that have been sent out without any emojis and ones that have been sent out with emojis. Now the issue is, you may think that's a simple thing, but out of 3,000 emojis, 130 were added last week. by Unicode, it is absolutely impossible for you as a marketer to sit there, swipe left and right, try to figure out what is the most contextually relevant emoji. So it might seem very, very small, but the data kind of speaks for itself. And we're the only ones that have an API that programmatically allows you get these kind of results on your platform or within our platform. That's one of the quotes from there.
How much capital have you invested so far, and
Yeah.
what you're looking to raise?
So we raised about $300K in venture and angel. About a year ago, unfortunately, we did have to part ways with a co-founder. We had about 12K left. On top of that, I basically told the investors that I would do whatever it took to make sure the company survived and did well. 2 months ago, we shipped product. We've had a new team. I put in about 170K of my own money. My girlfriend's right here. She put in about 10K of her money in as well. And she helped us get 60,000 in credit lines. I put the rest on my credit cards. So all in, we're about 170 in as well, on top of 300. We were also on a show a couple of weeks ago. I can't talk about it. We're working with the SEC. So a lot of the financial information that you'll ask me here, I can't answer. But there's a lot more coming in the next couple of months as well.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Yep, all right, let's give it up one more time for all the contestants. That was amazing. We're gonna add up the judges' scores here. All right, we're gonna take a few minutes. Brandon, you got some more trivia up your sleeve?
Let's hope so.
All right, thanks, Michael, and congratulations again to all of the entrepreneurs who came out and pitched tonight. I came in late, didn't get a chance to talk about Shark Tank. How many other entrepreneurs do we have in the room? A few? Okay, yeah, quite a few. Well, if any of you are interested in Shark Tank, here's how casting works. Casting season is roughly March through July every year. We do casting calls. There's always a big event around New York Tech Day in the spring. You want to do the big casting call. The events that I do are small, so I go to co-working spaces, community spaces, and I want to see 100, 150 entrepreneurs in a day versus the 1,000 that we might see at Tech Day. And I'm also focused on finding more diverse ideas, so making sure every sector of the economy is represented in the entrepreneurs that we have on the show, but also making sure that the diversity represented at home in the audience and also in this room is represented on the show, both with the entrepreneurs and also to the greatest extent possible with the actual sharks themselves as we bring in guest sharks on the show as well. So if you're interested in Shark Tank, I'm definitely happy to chat with you. I'll give you my phone number. Yes, this is my real number, and yes, I reply.
I've used it.
760-2921. I think one of the first things you learn as an entrepreneur is to build a relationship with your customer, talk to them, and do what they tell you to do. All of you are my customers as entrepreneurs who may be interested in the show. So again, 202-760-2921. Don't hesitate to reach out if I can be helpful with anything with your businesses, Shark Tank or otherwise. Now to a couple more questions. How much money do you think the sharks themselves have invested through 10 seasons of Shark Tank? We're on season 11 now. Season 11 started in October, but through about 10 seasons, how much money do you think has been invested by the sharks?
28.4 million.
28?
0.4.
28.4, exactly. Okay. Any other guesses? How much money do you think?
Closest wins a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Throw out some numbers.
What about you? What, 36 million? 36? Okay. 50 million?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
80.
80? Okay. Anybody else?
One more over here.
Huh? 81?
This isn't Price is Right.
Episode season.
So all of you are horribly wrong. You're horrible at this. This is terrible. So there's been 10 seasons on the show. We have 12, 13 episodes per season. It is over 100 million. It's well over 100 million. So we're going to start again with that context. I'm going to give you guys another opportunity because that was horrible. That was terrible. I'm not going to tell you. That's going to be our secret. That's going to be between you and me. Throw it out. Now, some new guesses.
138.4 million.
Okay. All right. 143, 164?
500.
500 million. Okay, he's doing the big thing. So it's like you have the jelly beans in the jar and you guess a million.
750 million.
So, 320?
223 million.
223 million?
180 million.
180? Okay, that's actually close. Yeah. Yeah, no, this guy right here.
All right.
Yeah. You understand?
Limit XL and a medium.
Let me
XL
ask you
good?
a question.
Yes.
Why have there been so few successes or return on capital?
I didn't say there have been so few successes.
Again, why has there been so few?
Well, I don't know that there have been so. What do you count as few? What are you
How many
saying?
successful exits have there been?
So there's been several successful exits. I definitely wouldn't say that there have been few.
What are the top three?
The top three.
Successful exits.
Well,
Almost
yeah,
none.
yeah. So there haven't been exits because they are
So nobody's
very.
made any money.
Well, no,
I
no,
think
no,
that
no.
the
It's
show
not
shows
tech
that
startup
financing
focused,
can be
I would
creative.
say.
I mean, Kevin O'Leary only does licensing deals for shared revenue. He's not looking to exit anything, quite
Yeah.
frankly. He's looking to have one business on the show.
Yeah.
So I don't think that exits are indicative of business success.
So one is the kind of businesses that we have on the show, and the entrepreneurs that we have are very often interested in running their businesses and not necessarily either being acquired or actually going the IPO route. Two, the sharks themselves, they like the cash flow that they're able to get from the successful businesses. If you look at the top 5 or so businesses from the show, they're all very cash positive, and they all put the sharks in an incredible position to be able to continue to generate cash and pull cash out when they want to. And so I think for those reasons, but I'd love to have more tech companies on the show, more companies that are on a traditional venture track. I think something that's great about Shark Tank is that it's given people a window to a world that you honestly would never really have a reason. Maybe you guys up here would, but most people never really have a reason to know anything about. The bad thing is that very often we get businesses that are passionate, but that aren't really built to be on a traditional venture track towards an exit. And so you get an equity investment, and then you kind of do the best you can with it from there.
But we
Yeah.
want people to believe that that's real. That's not the way it's done.
Well, Shark Tank, again, I think is positive in that it gives people a window to that world, but we also don't get to have that broader conversation. Yeah, so that's definitely true.
I had a question.
Yeah.
There was a Forbes article a few years ago, and they studied the first 800 deals on Shark Tank, and determined that only about 27% ended up being with the deal terms that were the handshake on the actual TV. Has that number changed? Do you have any idea how often those handshakes actually turn into deals?
Yeah, it's around that number. Now, the number of actual deals that go through after the handshake is much higher than that.
Right,
Just to
because the
clarify.
terms
But yeah, so to be clear, Shark Tank's a reality show. It's a structured reality show. So that means one of the reality pieces is the sharks don't see or hear anything about the businesses, or they're not supposed to, before they get on set. So the sharks actually have to go through diligence with the businesses, just like any regular investor would, without the benefit of having done so before they get to make the handshake agreement. And so that's why you see a high percentage of the deals changing. Now, if you look at the actual success rate, the success rate for Shark Tank businesses, actually the deals closing is pretty high. But yeah, there's definitely always going to be changes when it's a reality show, and you as an investor haven't had a chance to kick the tires on the business before you close the deal. But yeah, that's definitely true. It is.
All right. Yeah, I think another thing is a lot of people's numbers and stuff that they say during the show might not be 100% truthful.
Well, so how many of you, if you were an entrepreneur going on Shark Tank, would you go in with a lower valuation than you would somewhere else, or with a higher valuation than you would with someone else? Lower? Why would you go in with a lower valuation for Shark Tank? You say higher? Why do you say higher? They'll negotiate? Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, my son was on the show with Peel Away Sheets.
Oh, okay. Cool.
College students who don't clean their sheets.
Yeah. So did he go in with a lower or higher? Or did you give him advice before he went on?
A lot of them.
Yeah. But lower or higher though?
It was lower.
Okay. Anybody else? Lower or higher? Lower? Okay. Well, so very often the entrepreneurs, because they feel like the sharks are going to take a premium, in terms of equity will come in with a higher valuation than they would if they were talking to maybe one of the investors at this table, or talking to an angel investor or a credit union or a more traditional capital resource. And because they come in with a higher valuation, that does lead to people everybody has projections for their business, so everybody has a chart with a big red arrow pointing up and to the left showing their projections for the future. But some of the entrepreneurs on the show get more into that projected space versus the actual space because they feel like the sharks are going to take a big chunk of equity, and they want to be able to protect themselves by coming in with a higher valuation. And so that makes, again, the negotiations a little bit more difficult than they would be otherwise. Yeah. So what do you guys think is in terms of types of businesses, what do you think is the business that's most often brought to Shark Tank? Is it fitness equipment? Is it food? Is it
Soap.
Clothing?
Soap.
Soap? You think so? Anybody else think
A
so?
lot of soap.
Consumer goods?
Yeah, consumer goods okay. Consumer goods in general, you want to go with that? Okay. Clothing? Okay. What about you? Food? Yeah, we get a lot of food. Anybody else? Any other guesses? What about you? Software? Yeah. I'd actually love for software again to be a higher percentage. It's not the top percentage. So consumer products, CPG stuff is definitely the highest in general, followed very closely by food products. We get a lot of food products on the show. What percentage do you think, this is for a t-shirt, what percentage of businesses do you think are software or are software companies coming on the show?
Based on what you said now, probably less than 10%.
It's not less than 10%. Any other guesses?
17. At 18.
Who said 17?
I said 18.
Yeah, that's actually it.
All right, final
T-shirt.
bet.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, and we do have the results. We do have the results.
Yeah, we're not
Before we do this, I want to welcome up Joe from Learsoft as well. He has a table outside, so before you guys are on your way out, make sure you stop by his table too.
Hello, I just want to say hello. I'm Joe Talek, co-founder of Learsoft. We're a software development firm based out of the Czech Republic, and our main competitors are the software development houses in India. And our claim thing with our customers is that our total cost for development is less than India. Our blended rate typically sits around $50 an hour, and we're a full stack development shop. Responsive web, native iOS, native Android, as well as ClickView, Power BI development. And we create dynamic teams for our clients. We don't have one bill fits all, and we allow an easy out for customers. We give them a 30-day out if they're not happy, and to come in and try us. We do it all agile approach based upon Scrum teams and Kanban teams. So we would help you guys do your minimal viable products, help you build your user journeys, your minimal viable products, and get you off to the races.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, one of the biggest difficulties when you're starting out, especially if you're doing a tech company, is just the cost to build the tech. So if you don't have a technical co-founder, agencies and outsourcing it is a great way to save a lot of money.